I'm ready to slash and burn. Jason and I were really good buddies from college.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Outside of the Box. And I'm excited because it's really rare that I get to have, pretty much a brand new unknown team on my show. But today, that is the case. I have Ben here today from Terrortops, which I am so excited about. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited too.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So as a dino lover and Pokemon lover, I love the design of the robot. It just looks so cool. I mean, to me, I know that I've seen it mentioned before, comparisons to Witch Doctor with the cage kind of design, but I really think, looking at the robot, it's a hybrid between like Witch Doctor, and I see some elements of Whiplash in there as well.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely took inspiration from both of those bots when like designing it, especially the aesthetics. We thought of having like a skeletal dinosaur fort before we realized, oh, hey, that's kind of like Witch Doctor's ribs. But yeah, it all kind of went together like that.
Yeah, and I think that it's really so great, because I always talk about on my show bots that have, kind of multiple like weapons or functions or things that they can use. And so to have the spinner as well as the lifter as something to use in a match, I think kind of can give you a leg up sometimes, because you don't just have this one thing.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely part of it. That even if our lifter isn't like getting under them or being able to control it, we can just put that up out the way and be a normal vert. Or if our vert breaks, which it might do, we are a new team going into it, we can still have like, I think, a pretty reliable lifter going at it.
So was that a lot of the thought behind, designing this, to have those different options and, to kind of get what you really wanted out of it?
Yeah, that was definitely part of it. The main thing is we wanted something to kind of protect the spinner while it's spun up. Because like we noticed a lot of the times teams would get like box rushed and their spinner wouldn't be at full speed the whole match. This way we're able to still push them around and like act like a control bot while having the knockout power of a big vert, which we're excited to show off.
Absolutely. I'm really curious, before designing this robot, because I think everybody has a different story, whether they go straight into designing one of these large 250-pound robots, or if they've done some with the smaller robots. What's your team's experience prior to designing Terrortops?
So we haven't competed in combat robots before, which is a big thing that some people will be kind of questioning about us. Which is fair, but through all our like high school and college, we've been doing mostly Vex robotics. Most of our team has been part of the USC Vex robotics team, who like won Excellence Award at the World Championships and has done a bunch of stuff with that. That's all 3D printed and stuff. And we have designed and built a 120-pound robot before. But it was built the same year Robo Games kind of shut down for their big break. They're back now, but yeah, so unfortunately didn't get to compete with that. And then we've designed some 3-pound and 30-pound robots, but never built them because that was when COVID hit and all that stuff happened. So this is going to be our first time actually fighting with the robot. So we're pretty excited about that, but yeah, we don't have all the experience a lot of other teams have going into it. We do have one member who was on Axolotl when they competed in BattleBots, so have some experience of how things work from that. But yeah, mostly all new at this, which is a bit scary.
There's nothing wrong with that. You have to start somewhere and learn. And I mean, that's something that I've heard from some of the builders that have been doing this for years is, they go in with something one year and kind of take away those lessons and then use them to build on for the next year. So, I think that's great though.
Yeah, and luckily we know a bunch of other builders who have had the experience, and we've been able to ask them questions. Like, they've been really helpful. People from Whiplash and like Seems Reasonable and Endgame have all been very helpful in answering our questions about this bot. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about the BattleBots community that I have found since getting more involved in it, is that everybody is willing to help. Everyone really wants everyone else to do well, because ultimately, you know, you want to win, but you want to fight the best other robots that you can to get there. And so I think that's great that you've been able to get that feedback.
Yeah, for sure. It's been very helpful. It's a very good community.
Yeah. Now I'm really curious, you know, looking at the robots, because obviously, you know, wanting to apply to BattleBots and get into BattleBots, you've watched it. What you know, what kind of robots do you hope to fight? You know, who would you like to match up against that has been out there already?
One fight would be like, if we go against Whiplash, I just think that would be quite fun, because I think I'm probably gonna be driving the robot, and obviously that's a big driving match, but also because we're quite similar how our robots are gonna operate, it would be quite a fun match to go against them. And then, but we also want to go against some horizontals, so we can show off our big like Triceratops themed front plates, and yeah, hopefully not a really strong one that'll retire our robot, but yeah.
I don't know. Usually when I think about the robots out there that are going to retire someone else's robot, there's a couple verticals that scare me quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, the horizontals are certainly really great ones out there. You know, when you're talking about that, I think it could be a really fun match to go up against a robot like Malice.
Yeah, Malice would be fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a lot out there, and as you mentioned, like with Whiplash, I always like, it's fun to see robots that are different match up against each other, but it's also fun to see robots that are similar and see what one's going to do with the other. And that's obviously a big challenge too, because Matt Vasquez is known as one of the best drivers in BattleBots, period. Yeah. So that would be a really, really good challenge.
The other one is Riptide, because going through, like, we were in Vex a lot, and we actually went against them when Ethan was doing Vex. We like matched up a lot, and so it would be fun to continue that kind of rivalry.
That would be fun. And you know, I hope that the schedule makers of BattleBots are watching this and maybe getting some ideas going. I always love to hear about these potential matchups, because it could be really exciting. You know, what, like, for you, what is the most exciting thing though, like, about doing this on a really scaled up version as opposed to what you've done in the past? Because I mean, it's you know, having watched lots of different robot combat competitions, they're all very similar in some ways, and I think that there's some like more exciting things about ones versus the other, and you know, things like that. But what for you is the like the most exciting thing about this?
Well, it's mostly the big scale of BattleBots. Like, nothing really compares to what it'll be like if we can get up there and compete. And like, the other thing is showing off this robot, because I think it's a very unique design, having the lifter like in front of the vert. I know Big Dill might be doing something similar, but I don't think to this scale of vert. So for us, it's always about getting out there and doing something unique, but also that'll perform well and should do the task well. Yeah, it's mostly, we want to show off this robot we've made.
Yeah, that's the fun part. You know, getting to get it out there and test it against other, you know, really great robots and see how it performs. You know, and obviously, hopefully it'll do as well as you hope. I mean, I think it's fantastic. I love the
Thank you.
design. Is there like, you know, a lot of the teams kind of have this theme across like the entire team, not just the robot. Is there any like theme that you have in mind for the whole team? Is there going to be like a certain way of like dressing or something?
We'll see if we can get it done, but we're thinking of dressing as like paleontologists, like from Jurassic Park or Indiana Jones, that type of clothing. That would be quite cool.
Yes, I think that would be amazing. That would be the direction that I would take.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Now, like, do you have any ideas about, because obviously, I mean, you don't know until after the season, but where this robot could evolve in the future? I mean, do you think that as long as it performs well, you're going to continue to go with this type of configuration, or have you like, spun around any other ideas about what you might want to do with it?
I think we're always going to have some kind of shield in front of our weapon. That's always been like our main focus. Even way back, like years ago, we wanted to do something like this. Like originally it was an armadillo, and it could put up like an armadillo shell around itself, which would have been awesome. So we might end up going towards that. We'll see how this does. Yeah.
I love it. I don't know if you are that familiar with Pokemon, but I mean, I always compare BattleBots to Pokemon all the time, and the ones that have that like that type of design or that type of personality are usually some of my favorites. So I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, should be good. I mean, we already have some thoughts for what to do next year. Like, we want to move our vert up, kind of swept out forwards, more like what Witch Doctor does. So we don't have to rely on forks that much. Basically, so if our forks can't do anything, we still can hit them. But yeah, we have a design for an arm that should be able to just deal with drum robots, which I'm excited about as well.
Yeah, and that's actually a good question, because you brought up the forks, and I know at least like in the last season a lot, that seemed to be, trouble for a lot of teams with the forks getting stuck, on the box or whatever the case may be. Is that something that, is taken into consideration as far as design? Because early in the season, obviously, it's not going to be as much of an issue because the floor is not quite as torn up. But then once things go on, then the floor can get quite bad.
Yeah, especially like because for Sin City Slugfest, I think they record that at the end of the season, so definitely need to think about it. For our forks, we haven't done like super long forks like lots of other teams ended up doing. Like we haven't gone to end game levels of forks. But mostly it's just our arm forks that we rely on, and those we can lift up and like push down. So if the floor's a bit uneven, we can just have them up a bit for most of the fight until we get close to the other team, and then we can push them down to really scrape it. But we don't have any forks that reach out further than what those forks will, if that makes sense. Most other ones are there for like anti-tips, because when we lift the other robot up, our robot wants to tilt forwards. So our forks like push against the chassis to stop us tipping that way. So that's their main purpose.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that was considered. I mean, you never know. Obviously, like, Endgame is a giant nut winner, and they have very long forks, and it doesn't seem to really have stopped them very much. But I guess it just varies robot to robot. Yeah,
it's good to have the option. We might get some really long ones cut. We'll see how that goes. We know we want some really long arms made. For if we like get huge as a match, because the selection committee, all those people seem to like putting huge against robots that can reach it or have some kind of arm. So we're thinking we might be on that list.
Possibly, yeah,
Yeah.
because like that's huge is definitely an interesting robot to fight. And I think, at this point, because it used to be, I mean, everybody still does, but like talking about everybody has a tombstone plan. Well, now I think
Yeah.
everybody has a huge plan because you have to. It's very
Yeah.
unique. But yes, I would think that from a selection committee perspective, they want to get to the best match results possible, the most exciting matches. And if a robot can't even hit huge, then that's
Yeah.
probably not going to be very exciting. So you want a robot to be able to hit them.
Yeah, so that's one thing. Like we just have a bunch of different ARM configs we've made that should be able to deal with most types of robots, which we're excited about. We're definitely excited about the drum one because like verts in the past have historically not done very well against drum spinners. Like just looking at Minotaur versus Endgame, those things, the forks just get torn up. And so we have something that we think will be able to just counter drums. So hopefully.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you brought that up too, because that was something that came up recently. For the Golden Bolt tournament, Endgame's always a threat, obviously, but after their match with Minotaur, I was like, well, I'm not sure. Like Minotaur beat them, but clearly it's just a matter of that drum spinners know how to take care of Endgame. So
yeah, they kind of win the rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean that could be interesting though, going up against a robot like Minotaur with a powerful drum to kind of see how that would work.
Yeah, we have kind of a UHMW scoop pretty much. So because other verts, they obviously can't put anything too tall in front of their spinner, but we can just have basically a full bulldozer behemoth looking, but made out of UHMW to hopefully slide under them and push them around.
Hey, that kind of strategy worked really well for Whiplash in the Sin City Slugfest until that very last match. So like it's a good way to go.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's very exciting. It's just, what do you think about the show aspect? Because I know we don't nobody really talks about that a whole lot, but I mean, it's different than most robot competitions where there's just, arenas set up and you fight and, but there's the whole production aspect of it, with the interviews and the entrances and everything else. Like, what do you think about that part?
We're kind of nervous for it because it is performing on what'll end up being TV with however many people watching. So it's definitely going to play into the nerves quite a lot doing that. And the interviews and stuff, I guess we'll just have to see how they go. I guess this is good preparation.
This is great preparation. My show is the most relaxed interview that you will probably ever be involved in. So.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we have some ideas about the walkout and stuff like that, but we'll have to have more of a talk about it with the team.
It's so funny though that people even have to think about that aspect, but I mean you do, because it's on TV and people are watching, and oftentimes that's what gets fans hooked on a team is just all of those aspects put together. But obviously ultimately the robot, and I think that's going to win over a lot of people, because a lot of fans are like me and just robots with just a fun theme and personality.
We're happy we got it looking so good, and hopefully we can make the physical robot look as good as the renders do, because originally we didn't have any of the ribs and stuff, and we were just kind of we had slopes on all the sides was the original plan. The main thing was about having this different weapon, and then we got some feedback about it. We changed it to be looking kind of like a Triceratops, but it was still a box mostly, just the front plates were different. And then we got more feedback saying, hey, they don't really like adding more robots that just have a box silhouette to it. And so the day we got that, we spent a lot of time adding those ribs, and like we have a tail, which we're excited about. And yeah, and I think the yellow and black is a good color scheme. Not many robots do that.
Yeah, definitely. Is the tail just, more or less decorative, or does it have any kind of functionality?
Yeah, it's decorative. We're expecting it to get destroyed in every match, because we have to make it really weak, kind of, because we don't want it to kill us, basically. Because like, if you look at when Death Roll had their tail, they got high centered on it. So we've made ours out of like thin 3D print. So if it gets under the bot, it will just crush it. And so hopefully we can keep going, even if we get flipped like on our tail and stuff like that. But it should still look good.
Yeah, absolutely. And compare your bot to Death Roll some more, because Death Roll was just like epic in season 4. So if you can be that epic, then you're gonna have a good time.
We'll see how our weapon does, but not sure how big a hits we can get. I mean, hopefully we'll launch some bots up to the sky, because we're basically just teeing them up and then hitting their underside with our biggest spinner is 40 pounds still, even though we have the lifter. And so our ideal case is like pinning them up and then pushing them against a wall, hitting that underside, which should be unarmored, and just sending them to the ceiling. But
those are some fun hits when you are able to do that, and especially like with the lifting capability combined with the spinner. I think that was probably that was the idea. But that could be really interesting.
Yeah, and kind of lucky for us, unlucky for other people, BattleBots has decided to keep the shelf. So that the shelf helps both furts and lifters, and we're both. So
that is a very true thing there. So I was kind of I don't know, surprised maybe that they kept the shelf, just because there was so much negative feedback. But I think that it could be interesting, to see what that looks like going forward. Because my understanding is that it's staying, but that it's not exactly the same as it was last season.
Yeah, we'll have to see what changes they've made to, I guess, hopefully make it a bit more fair for everyone. But for our team, we can't say we're disappointed it's still here. Kind of selfish, but sorry, horizontals.
Sorry, horizontals. We'll see, after that what happens. Who knows? Maybe everyone will change their minds about it. Probably not horizontals.
No.
Oh, right. Well, that's excellent. I'm so excited to see, this robot in action, see how that goes. But I'm sure that you're very excited. I'm sure that there's a lot of, work to be done at this point to prepare for that. And is there anything else about your robot or your team that you think that the fans need to know?
I don't know. I mean, I think some people might be looking at it and thinking, oh, they must have done some kind of sacrifice to have both the weapons. Or I know some people have said oh, they're not going to use the lifter, like some robots in the past that have had both never used one. But we haven't cut any corners with the robot. We've still have almost as much armor as, say, Endgame on all the sides, and the lifter can lift 500 pounds. Spinner, like I said, 40 pound, almost max speed. And then in terms of being able to lift, use both, that's 100% our plan. You should see a lot of control from us and also a lot of damage.
The best of both worlds. That is how you win with the judges.
For sure.
So Well, excellent. I'm excited about Terrortops. We'll look forward to that. And for fans that are watching the show, please make sure you tune in. If you have not already got your tickets to the live show yet, please make sure that you do, because I have a feeling it is just going to be a fantastic season. And everybody make sure that you like, subscribe, all of that stuff that you've been doing to keep this going. And we'll have a lot more coming for you on the show here.
Yeah. Subscribe.
Yeah, exactly. And thank you so much, Ben, for coming on. It's been a blast.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me talk to people about my robot.
Love to.